Well, hello everyone, and welcome back to Whiskey and Cynicism. This is the first Desert Island Drams for quite some time. I've had about 3 or 4 weeks of a hiatus, but I'm thrilled to come back with a bang with the wonderful Sam Bygrave, previous editor of Australian Bartender Magazine, a hugely important publication for the industry out there, and has now gone out on his own to start Boothby, a new publication, which I'm going to talk to him about. But firstly, Sam, it's been quite a few months since I've seen you, so welcome along. And what have you got there? You drinking a wee dram today?
I am having a wee dram because I think the last time that I saw you was in Edinburgh just before we went into a lockdown back in March. So yeah, I got something from that trip. It's a Balvenie 14-year-old that I picked up on at the distillery. I think just one of those cask samples at 61%. So yeah,
nice, just a quiet Monday night 61%er. I like it.
Yeah, put me to sleep. It's 9 o'clock here. I go to bed early these days.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm on a coffee due to the fact that it's 10 a.m. here, so
well, there's nothing in the coffee.
Yeah. First, I guess, how long were you at the helm at Australian Bartender Magazine?
Around about 8 years I was there. Yeah.
So let's talk. We're talking basically a decade of writing in the drinks industry, if not more overall, and obviously at what is pretty much the most important publication in Oz for all of that time. Over that, what do you think is the biggest change in industry discourse? You're writing from the industry for the industry. What do you think is the biggest change in the way we talk about drinks in the industry over that time?
Well, because it is Bartender Magazine, it's really focused on the bar industry, and you come at drinks through that sort of lens. But I think one of the biggest things that I think I saw in my time was just the way it's not that the big brands sort of fell away, but there's just a lot of small creatives and small brands doing a lot more. Like niches are a thing now, and there's so much of that. The idea that a couple of kindred creatives could come up with an idea for a bar or a little brand and make it work and make it good, something people want to spend money on. Back, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, that was an absurd idea. But now it's all happening. You've got guys like Never Never Distilling Co. down in Adelaide. Smaller guys like Marionette Liqueurs in Melbourne doing some great stuff, and even smaller still in terms of scale, like Dan Woolley's Highwayman whiskey stuff. It's a really interesting place to be, and they're all making great juice. So that's one of the big changes, I'd say. And then I guess in terms of this, particularly the bar industry, and what we sort of did, or what we got to do, was get a bit more representation for women in the magazine in particular, and sort of shining a bit more of a spotlight there. That was something I was real proud of, and I think my mum was as well.
Excellent. Something that I think is being worked on and needs to be across the industry worldwide. I think for anyone,
it's not by any chance, like not by any strike the imagination a done deal yet. There's still a lot to do.
Absolutely. I think, because of the 3 people who watch this, I think 2 are in the UK. So I think it's probably, Australian Bartender Magazine is really interesting because we haven't got an equivalent. In Scotland, we have the SLTN, which feels quite local and quite provincial and covers the entire industry, and is run by a governing body, the Scottish Licensed Trade. We've got class and things down south. Whereas, Australian Bartender focuses on, as you say, the drinks industry in particular, bars in particular, but hugely the independent, creative, kind of forward-thinking sector that tends to get left behind by some of the more traditional publications here. So there must have been a huge opportunity to spotlight who you wanted and who you felt deserved to be.
Yeah, well, I would often say that I had the best job in the industry because I got to go around and drink at all these great, amazing, creative bars, and then get paid to write about it as well. It's a bit of a luck. But yeah, but that's also where the innovation comes from, right? It doesn't happen there are big places that do push the envelope a bit, like the stuff that Sam Edgerton does at Merivale in Sydney is phenomenal, that guy. But on the whole, it usually happens at the smaller owner-operator places.
Yeah, I guess, it's obviously be easier if one guy has one idea and there's not many hoops to jump through to get enacted.
Yeah, you can get shit done.
Absolutely. Well, speaking of getting shit done, you've now got your own kind of presence, which, as much as bartender for many years was synonymous with your name anyway, you've now got what is, generally a standalone and your own publication in Boothby. Now that you have that going forward, what's your biggest aim? What's the most important kind of thing for you in this new venture?
Well, I mean, I was a bartender for 10 years before I got the chance to work at Bartender Magazine. I've been in and out around the hospitality industry for a while, but basically the main idea of it is just, you know, I want the public to know their bartender better. You have like chefs, you know, like I'm angling it more towards consumers and then purely trade, because you see you know, chefs are on the cover of food magazines all the time. Their recipes are in the mag. They've got the little picture in the circle in the magazine and that sort of thing. And their household names, whereas it doesn't happen so much for bartenders. It tends to be, you know, people like myself or other drinks writers that will take their recipes and write the story and put their photo in the article. You know, I would like to see, you know, more bartenders getting a bit more credit, and that's driven because there's two quotes that I came across through my time at Bartender Magazine, and they kind of animate the whole idea. One of them is the classic Gaz Regan quote, you know, I don't go to bars, I go to bartenders, which makes heaps of sense when you see how good the bartenders are these days. And then the other one is, because I'm focusing on drinks experiences as well, not just, you know, press release journalism. Like I'd like to be able to get to as many places as I can and actually taste it for myself. But there's a Hemingway quote, which is, if you want to get to know a city, spend a night in its bars. And I think that's really great advice. So we try to combine those two.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, that spending a night at bars is definitely something I've employed over the years. But I mean, I've always said, you know, there's some bartenders in the world, you'd rather them serve you over a plank of wood on 2 barrels than somebody in the fanciest bar in the world. And I think that's, you know, to champion that. I mean, you know, we have MasterChef. People are interested in the creative process behind, you know, culinary events. I'd love to see it more and more. Now that people do make cocktails at home, people are more au fait. Yeah. Most people have a cocktail shaker, all that kind of thing. So I think consumer engagement's more important than ever.
Yeah, but I 100%. But I think where you won't see like a bartender master chef, and this I get from my old boss Dave Spanton. He's like, do you think do you think Audi and you know, Harley Davidson and all these, you know, motorcycle and motor vehicle brands want to advertise next to alcohol content? You know, it's always been a little bit skeezy, you know, for some reason. And bartenders, you know, often been portrayed as skeezy, you know.
Yes.
But yeah, but there's a whole level of professionalism now that just wasn't there, you know, maybe 30 years ago. It's a different world, but will it change? I don't know.
Yeah, I think as well. I mean, obviously you can build drama over the 45 minutes of cooking a meal. It's probably too quick for a cocktail. Maybe 10 years ago though, there were some bartenders about 10 years ago that were taking 45 minutes to drink. We might have missed the boat on this.
Yeah, that was the old-fashioned spec, wasn't it? You had to like muddle it down, pour a little bit of booze in, muddle the sugar a bit more, pour a little bit more booze in. Took 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Blow the glass for the vessel and then ship the ice.
Exactly.
Okay, so we're now down to the kind of the 3 questions I ask everyone. And the first one, I mean, may be difficult or hard depending on your, I guess, with your long experience in the side of the industry you are. But what annoys you most about the drinks industry?
Yeah, see, this is the one that I would always ask people as well. I try to get them, okay, what's really pissing them off right now? And it would always frustrate me because people are smart enough to go, you know what, I'm not going to slag people off. I'm not going to slag things off or brands off. And, you know, I would probably say marketing, you know, is when it's done poorly, it's really frustrating and it gets in the way of like good stuff to drink, right? But I think, I don't know, I've gotten older and a bit more equivocal on things, and people are just trying to make their way, right? Whether it's in bars and, you know, the old suspenders and arm garters and wax mustache thing, you know, was really popular. Now everyone loves to rail against it. But you know what? There's a place for that. Molecular mixology, if you want to call it that, it's a bit wanky sometimes, and sometimes it's just technique for technique's sake. But you know, there's still a place for doing it well, you know. So I think I've maybe mellowed out a little bit in my old age and realized I don't have all the freaking answers, you know?
Yeah, well, that's absolutely true. I mean, I get asked the similar thing. I was thinking Scotch whiskey, and you know, I'm like, Tartan's okay, Chesterfields are okay, they're comfortable. I know we want to move forward in some ways, but we can have the others as well. Like everything's all right. But
yeah, there's places for everything, right? Yeah,
absolutely.
I tell you what I don't like is that, and this is only things that I've been learning about recently, because I'm not a whiskey expert like some of the people that you've interviewed before. But I do know that, and I was talking to Dan Woolley about this from Highwayman Whiskey, and about the rules and regulations out here, how they're a bit more, they're not as strict as they are over in Scotland. And that's, you know, it's a double-edged sword. It can be great because you have more innovation going on, and And it can also be bad because people are bringing in spirits, not just distilled overseas, but aged overseas, and slapping a label on it here and calling it Australian whiskey. And that doesn't gel with me. That kind of stuff is just undermines confidence in everything.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. The SWA that we have here is great, protects the brand, but does kind of hamstring producers. But I think at the end of the day, brands not being transparent and accountable for what their category is and undermining the whole category. You see it in rum, you see it in gin, and when you see it in whiskey, which has happened kind of recently in Australia, I think that's heartbreaking when people can put themselves before a category or an industry at large.
Yeah, I just I finished up judging some what was a contemporary gin panel that I was on for the Australian Distilled Spirits Awards, and by and large, the stuff that Australia is making, it's all Australian made stuff. By and large, the stuff we're making is great, but there was just some things where it's like, there's not juniper within a mile of that. So like, what are we calling it gin for? I mean, I know this is like a chat that's been going on for a while, but I mean, then how do you regulate that though and make it worthwhile? I don't know. It's hard to do.
Yeah, it definitely, especially with something like gin that's made in so many countries. It's a bit like rum. Getting a worldwide thing is difficult. So I think on the other side of the coin, I do try and be positive occasionally. On what is, I'm sure, I mean, I've seen you in Scotland, I think 3 times maybe since I've been back, and obviously you would have had many travels within the industry. What's your kind of favorite drinks related memory where you've gotten to a point you just thought, wow, I'm here because of putting liquid in glasses, and this is pretty awesome?
Yeah, it's even more bullshit than that. I'm there because I wrote about someone else putting liquid in glasses. There's a couple that stand out. One of them, this is an early one, was probably my first time in Mexico, and I was down in Oaxaca with Cristiano Beretta and Jorge from Mextrade, and we ended up it's not a junket, right? But we ended up in one of these valleys outside of Oaxaca all day, just sipping on mezcal and watch the sun come down, and had a big banquet out there, and it was just, I don't know, it was crazy. It was a big sky, unlike anything I'd ever seen before. Bacchanal, have you been to Tails yet?
I've never made Tails, unfortunately, no.
Okay, all right. Well, because anyone who goes there a bit will always bang on about Bacchanal as being like the place to go on the Sunday that after the awards the night before. So when everyone's feeling awful after 5 days of ruining their liver and making questionable life choices, they end up at Bacchanal, because it's just this like, it's outside of the quarter. I think it's in the Bywater, and it's just got this amazing big outdoor deck outside, or outdoor area outside. It's all concrete paper, there's tables, little wine shop at the front. So you buy your bottles in there. They give you an ice bucket, some glasses, and you head out to the back, and they have a little stage there. So Sunday afternoon, you've got bartenders from all over the world in this place. And the last time I was there in 2018, I was with a great crew of humans from back home, and I thought I was going to die at some point. And I think it was Cosmo from Rambler Rascals was like, "Sammy, are you okay? Do we need to, like, I don't know, get some sort of IV drip into you real fast?" I was like, I'll be okay. Just pass me the rosé. And then out of nowhere, there's this like little jazz band going on, and then one of the guys from the crowd hops up and just starts belting out. I think it was Sam Cooke's "A Change Is Gonna Come." And this is, in Trump's America and stuff like that. And it starts off with the lyrics before any band comes in, and it just, like, people were spilling drinks, everyone just shut up all of a sudden. And it was just one of these transformative, magical moments that really ever happens. That one's definitely up there.
I've seen footage of it, I think, from you and from a friend, Dave Smiley was there as well.
Yeah, who's on the table, yeah.
Yeah, and even, watching that through a Facebook video gives me goosebumps. I think it's the most peak FOMO that I've experienced in my life. It's an amazing moment, it really is.
Whenever I watch it back, I still get chills down my spine. And that was what brought me back to life that day.
I can imagine. And that lad's voice as well was phenomenal. I mean, just carried that tune, didn't it? Well, the reason we're all here, the 3 desert island drams, Sam. So, I mean, if you were to end up on a desert island, which sometimes in this year hasn't felt like a terribly bad idea, what would be the 3 drams you'd want to take to sustain you on that island?
See, not being something of an ambiguous kind of I'll drink anything kind of guy, I've got one whiskey in there. I hope that's okay.
Of course.
Yeah. Okay. So that would be, there was a, I think it was a Balvenie 15-year-old single barrel. I know you had Ross Blaney on this a few months ago or whatever. He hooked me up with a bottle of this when we stayed there with on a Sailor Jerry trip. We stayed at whatever that house is across the road from Balvenie, and it was just magical. And I never had that particular bottle before, and it was really rich red in color, and it was just the people there, and it just happened to go down like, you know, didn't even touch the sides. It was beautiful. That one is a really memorable whiskey, and that's one I hassled Ross for some more bottles of it when I got back, and gave it to a very good friend of mine when he got married, and we had it in the limo and on the way to the wedding. And yeah, it's a magical whiskey for me, and I could drink it all day long. The other one I think would be, let's see, I haven't really decided yet. I'm going to go with Fortaleza Blanco, because I can drink that thing all day long. You know, if I'm stuck on a desert island, it's going to work with the climate. You know, that's going to do me fine. And then I'm going to take some creative license and just assume that I've got some sort of magical infinity bottle of daiquiri, because I need to drink some daiquiris. I'm going to be stuck there for a while. You know, get tropical.
I think it's fair to say that be a lime tree, and I'm sure you'd find some sugar easily enough. So
I don't want to have to make the stuff. I just want it to be there in a bottle, magical. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah. The magical refilling daiquiri bottle, and it's chilled as well, obviously. But I lose it.
Of course, yeah. I've found some refrigeration. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's the kind of. Unfortunately for me, I asked the question, so I don't have to do this. But for me, kind of only taking 3 things to an island or whiskey would be very, very difficult. You would definitely need a daiquiri.
What's the best answer you've had for that? What's the best one?
It's what fascinated me was people. I mean, like Dave Smiley, like Ross Blaney. You know, all these people who've been on who are huge experience in the drinks world, have probably drunk some outrageous whiskey. Everyone goes really basic. I mean, I think it was after the first 5, I was like, guys, there's no budget. Like, you can have if you want, and everyone's going Johnny Walker Black and kind of all this stuff, which is great. You know, I just think it's amazing that, you know, all of us just want something pretty drinkable, pretty easy, as you say.
Like, you know what it is. You know what? Everyone's conscious that the people are going to watch this, and they don't want to be viewed as a wanker. I'll tell you right now.
Yeah, I think there's a huge part of that.
I didn't want to be.
Yeah, we're some of those people that I think that ship has sailed anyway, so I don't know what they were too worried about.
Copy that.
Yeah. Oh, well, Sam, it's lovely to catch up. As I say, the last time we saw each other was in, I think, the Bon Vivant in Edinburgh in March.
Yeah, I was drinking a daiquiri. Yeah.
And it was, I think I was on a champagne cocktail, and it was, I think, all about to come crumbling down around us at that point.
Can I just say that Edinburgh blows my mind every time I've been there, right? It's within, like, I don't know, a few blocks. Well, how many people live in that city? 500,000 or something?
Oh, you mean during tourist times, maybe, if you count all of it. But I think in the city centre, there's about 7.
Okay. You've got like the most amazing bang for buck in terms of cocktail bars and drinking in that town. It's just insane. It's insane. Yeah, it's amazing. I love it every time I go there.
I've often said that I think it's got the highest concentration of good bars in the smallest space in the world. And people look at me like I'm crazy. I'm like, no, draw a circle around all the good bars in Edinburgh, and you'll see it really is absolutely.
No, 100% agree with you. Yeah, pound for pound, probably the best drinking town in the world.
Absolutely, and I'm very much looking forward to a time where I can actually walk out into it and do it again. Hopefully not too far away. Sam, look, thank you so much for being on. It's been lovely to speak to you, and I really hope that I see you over here again soon in your travels once things open up again, or in a couple of years' time, I might even get back to Oz again. Who knows?
Who knows? Thank you so much for having me, and I'm thinking about all the wonderful bar people over there who are doing it tough at the moment.
Well, much appreciated, man, and say hi to all the guys back there when you're in their bars. And it's a coffee, but cheers, mate.
Cheers, mate. Thanks for having me.